Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 5,727 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Wow, we have blown past 5,700. I don't think we'll get the 6,000 subs this year, but we might get pretty dang close. Thank you guys so much. As always, negativity always does well on YouTube, so we are doing a part 2 to games that I have gotten on the Xbox 360 that I don't necessarily want in my collection anymore. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's check it out. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, the first game we're going to talk about today is one that I saw some people in the comments mention was pretty terrible before I picked it up, and after picking it up, I have to admit, it is pretty damn terrible. And that is the Leisure Suit Larry box office or bust game. Now, all puns aside, I am not familiar with the Leisure Suit Larry series. I know it originated on the PC, were very tongue-in-cheek, you know, kind of like horny boy comedy, American Pie type stuff back in the, I want to say the early 90s. And this came out, I think, in the late 2000s. And it's more or less a GTA clone, but you're playing as Leisure Suit Larry, trying to get the girls and move up in the industry, or whatever it is the hell he's doing. You're not actually playing as the original Larry. The original Larry is your uncle in this game. Instead, you're playing as some loser who's trying to get with all the girls and be successful. And it's just... it's not very good. You know, it's not very good. The comedy is so over the top and in your face and sophomoric that it's just not enjoyable. But on top of that, it's just not a fun playing game. It's not clever. It's not unique. Once again, it being 2025, you know, there's not much in the ways of games like this anymore, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a great play, because it just plays awfully. The storyline, everything about this game is just not good, and I played it for a few hours last year and put it down, and yeah, it's still a fairly cheap game you can get for $15 or so, and there's a reason for it, but honestly, there's no reason to play this game. There are far better GTA clones out there you could be playing, like Saboteur or something like that. So yeah, stay away from Leisure Suit Larry on the 360. Now, the original games I hear are pretty good, but let me know. I've never played any of them. Alright, the next game, the reason I picked up this one is there are fans out there. Now, it is very much a multiplayer-infused game. It is somewhat of a pseudo-sequel to the Wii-exclusive game Mad World, which I have never played, but I picked it up way back in the day because it looked cool. And this game is called Anarchy Reigns. Now, much like Garden Warfare or Shadowrun, like, this is very much a arena multiplayer type game that I just could not get into. And part of when I looked at some of the games to pick up videos, hidden gem videos, these kind of 360 games, when they were talking about Anarchy Reigns, I knew going into it that it probably was not going to be a game for me. However, I like to still see if that's the case. You know, looking at Fear, I thought maybe that game wouldn't be for me, but it absolutely was. So I thought, hey, let's give Anarchy Reigns a shot. Not the case. Didn't enjoy it. Didn't really like it. I appreciate that the guy from Mad World is in it and is more or less a kind of a sequel in that universe. But other than that, not much to get excited for on this entry, as there was not much gameplay in it that I could get down with. There's a lot of hidden characters. I remember there was a lot of DLC for it on the store before it got delisted, but just not my kind of game, not something I'm really going to play. I'm really over that part of my life where I give a damn about multiplayer, KD ratios, things like that. Even cooperative multiplayer games, unless there is something that you're actually getting out of it. if there's no end point, if there's no story, if there's no challenge, it doesn't appeal to me anymore. And this is one. It was only like a $5-10 game. It's still only a $5-10 game. So that's what's nice. It's none of these games that I've really said I don't care for anymore. I think the most expensive one might be $20. So none of them are all that expensive, which is partially why I haven't gotten rid of them, because it's so hard for me to get rid of games. But yeah. All right, moving on to the next one. This is one that I probably won't ever get rid of just because I want to have the complete set of this series. However, it is emblematic of how far from grace this particular developer fell, and we have Microsoft to thank for that. And that game is Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. I remember when this game came out, the whole thought process was, hey, we're doing a Banjo-Kazooie game, but it looked like a racing game. That's what it seemed like. Now, without having an Xbox magazine or anything like that, that's what the previews, videos, things like that, that's what it seemed like in, 2009, 2008 when it came out. Come to believe later that it's actually a little different. It is a little bit more in line with the original. However, you're almost going through and doing the kind of the Rube Goldberg machine making that you do in Tears of the Kingdom, but way earlier on in a Banjo-Kazooie game. However, it doesn't gel. It seems like you took a weird concept, which Rare was known for. Rare was great at taking a weird concept and making it work. However, you could really see the difference between Nintendo's quality and then Microsoft's quality, because with Nintendo, a game like this or Kameo Elements of Power would have been ironed out and turned into something like Blast Corps or Jet Force Gemini, or basically every game that came out on the N64 that was under Rare. However, when it got to Microsoft's care, I've heard Grabbed by the Ghoulies is good, but everything else is just not great. And Nuts and Bolts, I'm sorry, I know it has some fans out there, but compared to Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, which, to be honest, Banjo-Tooie is nowhere near as good as Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, that game that came out on Dreams, the Banjo-Kazooie Mumbo Mania, I think that was originally going to be the third game's title. That looks freaking incredible. Nuts and Bolts, not good at all. They do callbacks to some of the other games in it as well, I believe. But it's just a very awful game. And even when Yooka-Laylee came out, it still couldn't recapture the magic that was the original Banjo-Kazooie, in my opinion. So this is one, I'm still going to keep it. I still got to get Grunty's Revenge. I bought Grunty's Revenge, the GBA game, one time, and then the person on eBay refunded me because it got lost, or it was more likely they sold it for too cheap. But yeah, that one, absolutely need to kick that out of my collection. Yesterday, I just can't. I gotta have the whole full Banjo-Kazooies. All right, this is one that I think I got it in a lot. I didn't go out there and try and find it. This was one that came in a lot with something I bought when I bought a bunch of 360 games. And this one I just don't want anymore. And that is Bladestorm, the 100 Years War. So it's a Koei game. It seems like the Koei games, when they come out, they're either Dynasty Warrior type games or they're very intricate, like Genghis Khan or the other, like this really in-depth strategy games that are incredibly hard to play and no one really likes them. And this one is more of the former, where it's more like Dynasty Warriors, which I am just not a fan of Dynasty Warriors. I don't know. I mean, that's why back in the day I remember there was a game on the PS2 called Kessen, where it had a bunch of units on screen that you could take out and always got poor reviews. And it seemed like all the Dynasty Warriors type things always got those too, and I never picked them up, and I'm glad I didn't, because every time I try out one of these type of games, it just is not for me. And Bladestorm, I did not play it very long. Once again, this was towards the tail end of doing the 360 series, which, to one of the comments last week, yes, I absolutely did get burned out on the Xbox 360. That's why this year you have not seen nearly as much Xbox 360 coverage, because I really got heavily into playing the Switch, talking about PS4, PS5. Thanks to you guys, I was able to branch out and talk about all of these other systems, which, hey, let me know. Can I talk about the GameCube? Can I talk about N64? Can I go back in time? Will you guys come? I don't know. We'll see. That the one game you buy before prices go up title, let's see how strong it is, right? But yeah, Bladestorm, not a fun game. Not one I would recommend. There are better ones out there. Get a Dynasty Warriors game if you want something that actually is true to the you know, the way the series plays. Or the Ken's Rage games, the Fist of the North Star, those are pretty good. The Onichambara games, those look decent enough. This one, not really that good. All right, this one saddens me because this was a gift from a friend of mine who follows the channel. His name is Mike from Lake Oswego, Oregon. Really cool guy. And he had asked me, hey, does this game look interesting to you? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And that is the game known as Bound by Flame. It was a late release for the 360. It was one of the ones that was actually rumored to be a Blue Label game on the PS3, but it wasn't. And it more or less is sort of a Oblivion, third-person RPG, you know, Heroes of Might and Magic, Dark Messiah type world, where it has a lot of systems on top of systems. But I like this comment last week where I don't want to have to get a master's degree to play a game. And yeah, that's how some of these games feel, where it's like, I do not want a college degree in these games' wonky systems in order to understand what the hell I'm doing. It just did not feel right. The combat did not feel right. The story I was not in the right mood for. Once again, maybe I should give this game a shot, but I just did not enjoy it. Now, I have seen some people say this is one of those things where if you can get into it, it's a lot of fun, which always gives me a little bit pause because I am also a champion of that kind of game, going back to things like Cobra Triangle on the NES. So we'll be keeping this one, but it is one of those ones where, man, was I disappointed. I thought it would be better than it was. The name looked familiar. It looked like a game that I had seen back in the day. Never tried it, but yeah, just not very much fun. One that for you guys, if you see it out in the wild, even though it's like $5-10, I'd pass. I'd save that money to get something better, like a Gears of War. All right, moving on. Now, this is one that I saw a bunch of people recommend, so that's why I picked it up, even though looking into it, I thought that this game wouldn't be for me. And after playing it, I was absolutely correct. And that is Darkstar 1 Broken Alliance. I am just not into flight simulation games, guys. And this one was starting to get up there. I saw it recommended on a lot of channels that were doing the same thing as me because we were all watching each other's videos. I don't blame you. I did the same damn thing. I found some games I never heard of. But this particular one, I saw a lot. And I covered it pretty late because I picked it up and I still didn't want to try it. When I did eventually play it, I just don't enjoy these. Star Fox 64, the original Star Fox, those are kind of the closest I ever got to enjoying these flight sim type games. In this, you're flying around. I can't tell you where my targeting computers are, where it's going. Maybe if I'd listened to the actual mission, but once again, I just want to jump into some of these games and experience the gameplay. I'm not trying to play through the entire story. So if I can't understand the fun of just playing the game without leading on the story, that right there shows me that I'm probably not going to be invested in getting very far into the game to begin with. But you guys might. I don't know. This is one that I'm probably wrong on, depending on if this is your style of game. This is just not mine. And even when I played No Man's Sky for the first month when it came out, back in the day, and I foolishly thought I was enjoying it until I realized I wasn't. You know, I enjoyed that style of gameplay a little bit, but I'm just not into these games where you're having dogfights out in the middle of space, I suppose. My equilibrium, my horizontal space, whatever it's called, the being able to orient myself just gets all out of whack, and I just don't enjoy them. But you guys might. It's still a $15-20 game, but I really did not care for it. Alright, now this next game, I may always be a little harsh on because back in the day, the only time I ever had an interview to get into the games industry was a QA testing for some company. I can't remember what they were, but at the time, I'd been told my whole life I had a photographic memory. And so when I went into the interview, I told them that too. And then they're like, okay, great, here's a picture. And then they put the picture down. And they're like, all right, tell us exactly what was on the damn thing. And I'm like, okay. Maybe I don't have a photographic memory. Maybe I just have exceptional recall, which I do. I have very good recall, which can get confused for a photographic memory because I remember things, how they happen, when they happen, but I don't necessarily remember all the damn details. I don't have an eidetic memory. But anyways, tangent aside, the game that we're talking about is Call of Juarez Bound by Blood. And basically the thing they showed me was a Call of Juarez poster. I don't know if it was this one or one of the other ones. This was like a running series, but much like Army of Two, it felt like one of those franchises that had its fans, but was not very mainstream enough to get everybody like the Call of Duties, the Gear of Wars, but they kept coming out. And so I finally picked one up for maybe $10 or so at my local game store last year. Played it. It took place at the end of World War, or the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. I don't know. It was not in the Old West. And I was just not really enjoying the way the gameplay worked. There's a lot of first-person shooters on the Xbox 360, and once you play about the 25th version of one, especially after you've played ones that are more early in the lifespan and have at least unique controls, once you get to ones like these where there's just nothing unique to it, I just didn't really enjoy it. Put it down, didn't really care to play it. I honestly don't care to play it anymore. Will I check out the other ones in the series? Probably, because eventually I want to do another Xbox 360 video, and right now I think I'm around 6 or 7 games, so I need a few more. Could easily pick up a few of those, but just did not enjoy it. Not one I'm really interested in playing anymore, but let me know. I've had some people say that these games are fun. Alright, speaking of games that some people did like, this is one that I brought up last week and someone did say they liked. So I apologize. I didn't mention in that video. I'd probably bring it up next time. And that is Blood Bowl. And Blood Bowl, man, based on a tabletop game, apparently it takes place in Warhammer. So that makes sense. I mean, I would imagine Warhammer 40K Blood Bowl is probably their version of football in it, which is probably, you know, it's kind of like think of how you have in Halo, you have the, you know, the swords match or the sledgehammer match or, you know, whatever. Team Fortress 2 got MOBAs or this. I sound awful right now. Anyways, this spawned a type of game, and then they made a game based off of that gameplay. It just, unless I don't have the time to learn the damn PhD it would require to play this damn thing. I wanted to try it out, wanted to play it. Thought hey, would it be like Mutant League Football or Mutant League Hockey? Nope, not at all. Not fun. Did not enjoy it in the slightest. Had way more fun with the Mutant Football League game I played on the Switch this year. But hey, if you guys could tell me how to play this, maybe I'd be worth giving it a shot. That could be something fun. All right, last two. Now, this is one I've talked about a couple of times. I mentioned it in the PS3 definitive version, which, funny thing about that video is a lot of people said that even though they were the definitive content version, they didn't play as well on the PS3 as they do on the 360. And that's true. That whole video was just talking about games that were the more content, I guess, on the PS3. But this is a game that I have on the 360, and that is Alone in the Dark. And this was an early Xbox 360 release. Alone in the Dark is one of the grandfathers of the survival horror genre. Technically, before survival horror was coined as a genre, because that really didn't happen until the PS2 era. Even when Silent Hill and Resident Evil were out, I don't really think survival horror was what they were calling it. That kind of, much like Metroidvanias, we started coming up with these new genres instead of just horror games, thrillers, action games, action adventures, which is cool. I get it. You want to be unique. But anyways, Alone in the Dark, not very enjoyable. Really weird choices made in it. You know, probably because it was a new game console, so you want to take advantage of the right stick, having things be used that way and not just the normal standard look up, look left, look right type of controls, because you were still using tank controls. But the thing that was the most unforgivable, in my opinion, is the amount of blurry vision they give you, which is one of the worst things you can do for a game. It's kind of like having a video with bad audio. If you have a video game with bad visual, not even bad visuals as far as the way they look, more if you can't see what you're doing. That's one of the worst things you can do, and that is an ongoing mechanic in this game. And maybe it goes away the deeper you get into it, but the fact that it's in the beginning of the game is unforgivable. You cannot have that and not have people immediately want to check out, which is exactly what I did, and it's why I want to check out having this game in my collection. All right, then the last game we're going to talk about here is one that you do not hear much about. It's sort of I don't know, there seem to be a lot of these type of games I'm discovering on the 360 where they are cooperative multiplayer games where you're taking on almost like an Overwatch, where you have like one side versus the other side. The Lost Planet series is kind of you versus the PvE, and this one is you versus PvE, but I think there's a PvP component too, as well as there was a download-only sequel to this game that was lost on the 360 store that I did not pick up. I probably should have, but I did not enjoy this game, and that is Section 8. And Section 8, once again, $10 game. It feels like a knockoff Halo, that when you die in this, you get knocked out. It's you and a squad of 4 people, but they're all computer controlled. I imagine you can play it with humans. And when you get knocked out, you come back down Titanfall status from space, land, and then have to run back to the arena of fighting. And it's got decent enough. I could see this game being one of those games in college where, you might have a friend who had it, and if you're playing it at a LAN party with people, I could see it being a really, really fun time. But if you're trying to play it now in 2025, not so much. And what makes it a little sad is it has one of my favorite developers that I've discovered through doing the Xbox 360, that it's not a great developer, but they make some fun stuff. It's South Peak Games. South Peak Games, look into them. The games that they've released, things like Velvet Assassin, Section 8, not great, but they've made some other ones that are pretty damn fun. And every time I see something that's South Peak Games, it's always like, is this going to be good or is this going to be bad? Like, I'm not saying that they are LJN levels of bad, because they're not, but it does feel a little bit like that, where it got to the point where I would recognize it was a South Peak game. But anyways, that is one that I do not care for, do not want anymore. So let me know, guys. That is what you get for this week. As a reminder, I release a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.